Hello and welcome to this short demonstration of SDN ClearViewer, which is part of the SDN Secure Suite. So I'm going to show you what ClearViewer can do for you. So basically ClearViewer is an application that allows you to obtain information from an SDN controller that is related to client events. So for example, if you would have a ClearPass policy manager running that logs client events like client login, logout, or client move, or update, or whatever these types of events, CMS events. You can create a context server on CPPM on ClearPass, and that context server can send REST commands to the SDN controller, and then that SDN controller will store that information in his cache. And then what we can do with the ClearViewer application, we can obtain that information from the SDN controller. So if you don't have a ClearPass policy manager, what we can do is we have the option here to generate some events. So this is just to see how the ClearViewer application works. Before we start generating events, it's important to check something on the controller. It is important that the controller is enabled for receiving CMS events. So it could be that that's not the case. So what we can do is we can check it here by going into the configurations, click on advanced, and click on the client, expand the client mapper service. So what we can see here is we see the ClearPass integration enabled, which is set to true, which is good. If this one is set to false, we need to modify these parameters and configure them to be true. So once that setting is done, the controller can receive those REST commands from ClearPass or from the ClearViewer application. Back to the Generate Events page. What we can do here is we can do 4 things on this page. Let's select the controller first. So what we can do is first we can get client session information from the controller. Basically the information that is stored onto the controller is obtained from the controller and stored in the database. The other way around, what we can do is we can push the database information to the controller, which is very similar as to what the ClearPass Policy Manager does when it sends a REST command with a client with a CMS event. And third, what we can do is we can generate some random events. So the application has some pre-filled information like MAC addresses, username, and these are randomized. And what we can do then is if we click the generate random events, these events are pushed to the controller. And then finally, what we can do is we can post an individual event onto the controller. So let's fill in the MAC address and just fill in an IP address. Select an event, provider IP address, username, operating system, and a group, and push that event. If we later check the reports, you can see that there is an entry for this user event. One important thing to note is that once we've posted the client session information or generated the random events, the session information and the events are only pushed to the controller. So the information is not stored in the database, just the controller. So in order to get the information back into the database, we have to get the client session information from the controller or from the team, and then it's stored in the database. So and now we can go into the reports and do some checking on the events. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do here. Obviously, we have to select the controller first. What we can also do is that if there are controllers that are not online, but you have CMS events stored in a database, we can also show the offline controllers and obtain the information from the database rather than getting the client events from the controller. So, but our controller is online. That's good. And what we can do is we can do two things here. So we can get the client events from the controller. So this will obtain all the events from the controller. And it will show you all the events. So we can scroll down the events, and we can change the pages and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff you can do here. You can click on event information, and it will show you the event. And what we also can do is get the client events from the database. So if we do that, there are no filters. So we can do some searches on MAC addresses, IP addresses, user IDs. But what we can also do is we can filter out the reports here. So we can search on specific entries. So first, what you see here is we see a start date and an end date. So what we do, what I've done is that the initial date that is shown here once you selected the controller is the earliest date that is available on events. So this would be the date time where the first event happened, and then the end date would be the date time where the last event happened. So that's already makes life already a little bit easier. So for example, if we now want to filter on an event that we generated, so if we want to filter on Jane Error, we just put in the username, and then we get the client events, and then you can see I've generated some events here, login events, and that's filtered from the database, and you can get the event information here as well. And what you can also see is you can see some bar icons next to the naming. So what we can do here is we can click on that, and then you'll get an event types. We can click on event types, so you can see how many login and logout events there are. So this would be for generic, but if you click on Jane Eyre, you will see the event types for Jane Eyre. So you can see Windows count 6, Nokia count 6. So if I would generate a new event for Jane Eyre, but with a different MAC address, for example, or the same, let's do the same, and 192.192.192.1. I'll just do client logout event. Username Jane Eyre. I'll do an Android now, and give it some select the controller and post the client information, and go back to reports and do a search on Jane Eyre again. You can see that there's some other entries here as well, and you can see here, so we have a client logout event, we have different client types now here, and different OSs. So in this case, Jane Eyre is using different devices to get onto the network. And then finally, the dashboard, which is the main page of the ClearViewer application. So on the dashboard, you can kind of get an overview of what's happening. So I can select the controller here, and then what you can see here is like the top 5 users, top 5 device OSs, the top 5 groups, device types, and the top 5 switches that are used for logging in. So that concludes the ClearViewer demonstration. I hope you liked it.